You're listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. Each week, your host, Polly Requa, interviews veterinarians and individuals in the pet industry from across the nation answering pet questions. Bark and Wag podcast is produced weekly for your enjoyment, and show notes can be found at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. That's BARKNWAG.com. Please remember to subscribe to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. Bark and Wag is dedicated to protecting our dogs through advocacy, education, and supporting like-minded dog lovers by selling custom pet products. Bark and Wag is excited to announce our new partnership with a Colorado hemp farm to produce a line of CBD products for your pets. Bark and Wag has CBD pet tincture available in 300, 750, 1200, and 2400 milligrams. Bark and Wag CBD is pet safe, no THC, it's made in the USA, and is CO2 extracted. Please check out Bark and Wag's website, barkandwag.com. That is BARK, to see our line of CBD and awesome merchandise. We love pooch ideas for podcasts and merchandise, so anytime send an email to Polly at barkandwag.com with your suggestions.
Welcome to Bark and Wag 15-Minute Vet Talk. I'm your host, Polly Requa. Today we're talking to Tim Mitchum, president of Winpro Pet. Winpro is an industry leader in the plasma space for pets. Winpro just launched a vet-exclusive product line called PlaVet Plus, which is grabbing the attention of veterinarians across the country. Hi, Tim. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Hey, Polly. It's good to see you. Or hear you.
Yeah, I know. Funny. So anyway, I wanted to have you back because the last podcast was so interesting. And for those that missed the first episode, I wanted you to talk about what is Winpro and how can it help your dog?
Yeah, so Winpro, we manufacture health products for dogs and soon-to-be cats that focus exclusively on using the power of plasma as the core ingredients. And we've been pioneering that plasma-based products for dogs for the last 7 years. And really, the promise that we have, or the promise that plasma gives is that it is nature's natural enemy against inflammation. And our whole goal at Winpro is to reduce inflammation so that the dog or the cat's or the pet in general's body can heal itself. We really believe that there's the system when you take the bottlenecks away, and in our world that means inflammation. They can essentially heal themselves and return to normal. And we think a normal dog is perfect. And that's kind of what our goal is.
And so why is this considered alternative, holistic, an approach to pets' health?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. And I think the only reason it's really easy to understand why it's holistic, right? Plasma works with the body as a whole to free it up so that it can heal itself. So there's a very holistic nature in how plasma works inside of the animal system. I think it's really, alternative in the fact that, it's been around forever, like 40 years. So the science behind it is forever. It just hasn't really, until Winpro brought it to companion animal like side of things, it really has been behind the scenes. So alternative in the fact that it's available now in such a, innovative product. And it's very innovative, especially considering, the industry as a whole. So sure. I think that it hasn't, not everybody knows about it. Mm-hmm. I think that that's kind of what makes it more alternative than actually what it is, because it's been proven for decades to have dramatic impact on health.
And can you just give some insight on the pet supplement industry as a whole? A lot of times now when you walk into a pet store, more boutique-y, there's, 400 bags of dog food and then now all these supplements. So yeah, how, what should listeners look for, and how do we find Winpro?
Yeah, so that's actually a really interesting observation. To get for me, the biggest, kind of like inside of the industry as a whole is There's been a lot of really great marketers in the past, I'd say, starting about 7-8 years ago, where they really took off and were really good marketers. But if you look at the labels, what I would look for is, obviously you want it as clean as possible, right? But what you're going to find out is if it's a hip and joint product, they're all the same. Like they have all the exact same ingredients in them. There may be a little tweak here or there, but there hasn't been any innovation in that area. So I don't understand how they all get on the shelf, to be honest with you, either, because any of their hip and joint products, it's glucosamine.
Mm-hmm.
It's a form of that with a few other ingredients. And so I'm not exactly sure how they all get on the shelf, except for they're really great marketers, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Or really cheap, right? That's the other way. They make a cheap product and then they can get on that way. But there's a lot of good nutritional products as well. But the thing about the industry right now, there just hasn't been any innovation. I guess any innovation that is mentionable in the past, I would say for 7 to 10 years, there really we haven't seen much. And we believe that plasma is the best innovation that's come out of that. In fact, when it was in the feed world, they had named it one of within the 100 years, like the greatest innovation in ag in 100 years, just because of the impact. And now we're just bringing it to this world.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So I know that plasma, it's been around, but it's interesting that it's just coming to light to help the canine world. So that's exciting for Winpro.
Well, I can tell you why that is.
Okay.
Bill, our founder, he grew up in Algona, Iowa in the 1960s, and he had an older brother. Life in a small town like that was, kind of tough. He didn't have, the greatest situation with his older brother's friends. There's some bullying, and he was kind of, kind of a loner a little bit in that world. And his dad brought home a dog named Yankee. And at that point, Yankee and Bill were really inseparable, and they would go to school every day. He'd wait for him. Bill saved Yankee's life by pulling a chicken bone out of his mouth, and Yankee at some point saved Bill's life from a rabid animal. And they really shared a bond that I think only two strays like that can really share and understand. But that's what set Bill's love, really unmatched love for dogs, into motion. And he was working inside of the blood plasma world in the feed side of it. And he was working on performance racehorses. And he just kind of had an epiphany moment. He was like, I've got 5 dogs at home and I'm scared to death of horses. So I need to figure out a way to translate this over to the companion animal. And so he really just took a leap of faith, taking that science and then translating it over to the dog world, the canine world at the start. And now we're really excited that we can translate that into cats too, because we think that's an underserved market, especially on the supplement side, because, cats are maybe hard to please sometimes when it comes to
you said it, not me.
So we're excited for that too.
Well, that's super exciting. Great podcast. I loved having you on. I'd love to have you back. How do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, they can go to www.winpropet.com. That's WINPROPET.com. Or if they have questions that they want to reach out to me personally, my email address is timm@winpropet.com.
Great. Thank you for being on the podcast and look forward to having you back.
Yeah, appreciate it much. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll pass along our web address, www.barkandwag.com, to your friends and other pet owners. Have a pressing question for a veterinarian? Ask your question at barkandwag.com under the podcast tab. This has been a KFR production. Join us next time for another edition of Bark and Wag's 15-Minute Vet Talk.